My wife kicked me out for asking for a DNA test on our newborn. 6 weeks later, I returned with the results. Her reaction told everything. I never thought a paternity test would rip my life apart. But the moment I demanded it, my wife threw me out, and what I discovered 6 weeks later changed absolutely everything. 1 minute, I thought we had it all: 2 healthy kids, good jobs, a cozy apartment in Denver. The next, a tiny detail about our newborn daughter, Lily, began to unravel every single thread of our perfect life, leaving me with a chilling sense that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. My name is Ethan. I'm 34. Chloe and I had been together 5 years, married for 3. Our son, Noah, just turned 3, and Lily was barely 2 months old. The unsettling feeling started small. Lily had this bright red hair, really red, almost orange. My hair is dark brown, nearly black. Chloe's is light brown, kind of a mousy blonde. Our son, Noah, looks exactly like me: dark hair, my nose, my eyes. But Lily? She looked nothing like either of us. I know genetics are weird, I'm not an idiot, but red hair is recessive. That means both parents need to carry the gene. I remember lying awake at 2 a.m., Chloe nursing Lily, while I was on my phone, frantically Googling hair color inheritance, probability charts. The numbers weren't in my favor. Chloe had always said her family had browns or blondes, never a redhead. My family? Same story, browns and blacks for generations. So where did this vibrant red come from? Things started to get worse. Chloe had been distant since Lily was born, barely looking at me. Every time I tried to talk, she had an excuse, or she changed the subject. She was constantly on her phone, texting someone. If I walked into the room, she'd quickly flip it face down. One night, about 3 weeks after Lily was born, I couldn't sleep. I went to the kitchen for water, and Chloe's laptop was open on the counter. She must have forgotten to close it. I know I shouldn't have, but I looked. Her Facebook Messenger was open. I saw a conversation with some guy named Brandon. My hands were shaking as I scrolled up. Most of it was typical work stuff. They were colleagues at her marketing firm. But then I saw messages from about a year ago, right around the time Lily would have been conceived. They weren't explicit, but they were flirty, way too friendly for just coworkers. My stomach dropped. I closed the laptop and crawled back into bed, staring at the ceiling until the sun came up. I started paying closer attention to her social media, scrolling back through old photos. Work events, holiday parties, team building stuff, and there he was, Brandon, tall, bright red hair, a beard. He was next to Chloe in at least a dozen pictures. They looked friendly, maybe too friendly. In one shot from a Christmas party, exactly 9 or 10 months before Lily was born, his arm was around her shoulder. I felt sick. I showed the photos to my brother one afternoon. He tried to reassure me that coworkers take pictures together all the time, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He suggested I talk to Chloe, work it out like adults. I wanted to, I really did. But every time I tried to bring up anything serious, she'd shut down, change the subject, or suddenly Lily would need something. The final straw broke in late October, about 6 weeks after Lily was born. I was bathing Noah while Chloe put Lily down for a nap. My phone was dead, and I needed to snap a picture of Lily for my mom. I grabbed Chloe's phone. I accidentally opened her messages and saw a recent text from Brandon: "Can't wait to meet her properly soon." Meet her properly? What did that even mean? Why would he need to meet my daughter properly unless he thought she was more than just my daughter? I screenshotted it before I could think twice, sent it to myself, then deleted the evidence. My hands trembled so badly I almost dropped the phone. That night, after the kids were asleep, I confronted her. I told her I wanted a paternity test for Lily. The look on her face, I'll never forget it. Pure shock, then anger, then something else, maybe fear. She exploded, demanding how I could accuse her of something like that. I showed her the screenshot of Brandon's text. She went pale, absolutely white. She stammered that it wasn't what I thought, that he was just being nice, that everyone at work had seen Lily's pictures, but her voice was shaking, and she wouldn't look me in the eye. I stood my ground. If you have nothing to hide, I said, then prove me wrong. Take the test. That's when she completely lost it, screaming about trust and marriage. If you don't trust me after 5 years, she yelled, pointing at the door, get out of this apartment right now. So, I did. I packed a bag, kissed Noah goodbye while he slept, looked at Lily one last time in her crib, and left. I drove to my brother's place in the middle of the night, my whole world falling apart. The next morning, I ordered a paternity test kit from Amazon, paid extra for next-day delivery. That evening, I swabbed my own cheek. Now, I just needed Lily's sample. I knew Chloe's schedule. She had a big client presentation on Thursday and would be at the office all morning. Our neighbor, Mrs. Chen, usually watched Lily for a few hours when Chloe had important meetings, since daycare didn't take infants under 3 months. Thursday arrived. My heart was pounding as I drove to our apartment building. I waited in my car until I saw Chloe leave, then gave it another 10 minutes. Mrs. Chen opened the door, surprised. Ethan, she said, I didn't know you were stopping by. I gave some lame excuse about forgetting important work documents in my home office. Lily was sleeping in her portable bassinet in the living room. I went to my office, grabbed some random files to make it look legitimate, then walked over to the bassinet. Mrs. Chen was in the kitchen making tea. My hands shaking, I pulled the swab from my pocket and gently rubbed it against the inside of Lily's cheek. She stirred a little but didn't wake up. I sealed it in the envelope, shoved it into my jacket pocket, and left as quickly as I could without seeming suspicious. That afternoon, I mailed both samples to the lab. The website said results would take 4 to 6 weeks. All I could do now was wait. Living at my brother's place was hell. Not because he wasn't supportive, but because every single day felt like a year. I was crashing on his couch, waking at dawn to check my email obsessively, then going through the motions of pretending to be a functional human being. Work was a nightmare, I couldn't focus. My boss pulled me aside twice, asking if everything was okay. What was I supposed to say? That I was waiting to find out if my 2-month-old daughter was actually mine? That my marriage was probably over? I just told him I was dealing with personal stuff, and he backed off. My coworkers definitely noticed something was wrong, though. I could see the whispers when I walked by. 3 weeks crawled by. Chloe finally started responding to my texts, but only about Noah. She'd send pictures of him at the park or eating breakfast. Never mentioned Lily. Never asked how I was doing. It was like she was punishing me with silence. I asked if I could come see Noah, and she said only if I apologized for accusing her and dropped the whole paternity test thing. I refused. I told her I'd already sent the samples to the lab, there was no going back now. She stopped responding after that. My brother tried his best to keep me sane. We'd sit up late drinking beer, and he'd tell me that maybe I was wrong, that there was some genetic explanation for Lily's red hair that I didn't know about. But even he couldn't hide the doubt in his voice. One night, about a month in, he asked what I'd do if the test came back positive. If Lily was actually mine. Honestly, I didn't know. Could I go back to Chloe after all this? Could I forget the suspicious messages, the distance, the lies? Probably not. And if the test came back negative, well, that was obvious. I'd be done. Completely done. I started looking at divorce lawyers online, reading about custody arrangements and asset division. In Colorado, you need to be separated for 90 days before you can even file, and the whole process takes at least 3 to 4 months minimum. I bookmarked a few law firm websites, made a list of questions. I started checking Chloe's social media like a crazy person. I know it's unhealthy, but I couldn't help it. She posted photos of Noah at his daycare's fall festival in early November, some cute thing where the 3-year-olds dressed as little pumpkins. I should have been there. She posted pictures of Lily sleeping, captioned with stuff like, "My perfect angel and blessed to be her mama," with a bunch of heart emojis. The comments were full of her friends saying how beautiful Lily was, how much she looked like Chloe. A few people asked where I was, why I wasn't in any recent photos. Chloe never responded to those. I noticed Brandon liked every single post about Lily. Every single one. That made my blood boil. I wanted to comment something, call him out publicly, but my brother talked me down. "Don't make it worse, man," he said. "Wait for the results. Then you'll know what to do." Week 5 came and went. No email. I called the lab, and some rep told me it could take up to 8 weeks during busy periods, that I needed to be patient. Patient. I was losing my mind. I wasn't sleeping, barely eating. I'd lost maybe 10 pounds since leaving the apartment. My mom kept calling, asking why she hadn't seen the baby in weeks, why Chloe wasn't answering her messages. I had to tell her something. So, I said we were having some marital problems and needed space. She immediately wanted to come over and fix everything, like she always tried to do, but I told her to stay away for now. That hurt her feelings, but I couldn't deal with her questions on top of everything else. Then, finally, 6 weeks and 3 days after I mailed the samples, I got the email. It was early December, a Tuesday morning. I was sitting in a conference room, pretending to pay attention to a budget meeting. My phone buzzed. I glanced down and saw DNA test results ready in the subject line. My heart stopped. I excused myself, said I needed the bathroom, and basically ran to my car in the parking lot. I sat there in the driver's seat, hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone. I opened the email, clicked the link to the secure results portal, entered my password. The page loaded slowly, way too slowly, and then there it was, in black and white, probability of paternity, 0%. 0. The report went on with all this scientific explanation about genetic markers and alleles, but I couldn't read any of it. 0% meant Lily wasn't mine. She wasn't my daughter. My chest felt like someone had reached in and ripped my heart out. Part of me had known, had suspected all along, but seeing it confirmed in an official lab report was different. I sat there in my car for probably 20 minutes, just staring at the screen, reading that 0 over and over again. I drove straight to a law office I'd researched downtown that specialized in family law. The receptionist said they were fully booked, but I must have looked desperate because she asked someone, and they agreed to see me for a quick consultation. I met with an attorney named Ms. Ramirez, mid-50s, kind eyes but a tough demeanor. I showed her the DNA results on my phone and explained the whole situation. She listened without interrupting, took notes, then laid out my options. Ms. Ramirez said filing for divorce would take 4 months minimum in Colorado, probably longer if Chloe contested anything. Child support for Noah would still be my responsibility, obviously, but Lily wasn't legally mine, so I had no financial obligation there. She asked if I wanted to pursue custody of Noah, and I said yes, as much as possible. She warned me that courts usually favor mothers, especially with young kids, but we could try for joint custody, maybe even primary, if we played our cards right, given the circumstances. I paid her retainer right there, $1,500 on my credit card. She said she'd draft the divorce papers, and I could pick them up in 2 days. I also asked her to print out official copies of the DNA results that I could show Chloe. I needed her to see it in black and white. Needed her to face what she'd done. I picked up the divorce papers and DNA results from Ms. Ramirez's office on Thursday afternoon. 2 manila envelopes that represented the end of my marriage, the end of the life I thought I had. I sat in my car for a while, building up the courage to drive to the apartment. My brother had offered to come with me for moral support, but I told him this was something I needed to do alone. The drive across Denver felt surreal, like I was watching myself from outside my body. I'd rehearsed what I was going to say 100 times in my head. But now that the moment was actually here, my mind went blank. I parked in my old spot, the one I'd used for 3 years, and walked up to the 3rd floor. I still had my key, but I knocked instead. Chloe opened the door, holding Lily. The look on her face was hard to read. Surprise, maybe, or resignation, like she'd been expecting this. "Can I come in?" I asked. She stepped aside without saying anything. The apartment looked exactly the same, but felt completely foreign. Noah was on the living room floor, playing with his toy trucks. When he saw me, his whole face lit up. "Daddy," he yelled, running over and hugging my legs. I picked him up, held him tight, fighting back tears. This was my son, my actual son, and I'd barely seen him in 6 weeks because of his mother's lies. I put Noah back down and told him to keep playing while Mommy and Daddy talked. Chloe sat on the couch with Lily still in her arms, and I stayed standing. I pulled out both envelopes from my jacket and placed them on the coffee table in front of her. "What's this?" she asked quietly, but I think she already knew. I told her to open the first one, the DNA results. She shifted Lily to one arm and picked up the envelope with her free hand. I watched her face as she read it, watched the color drain from her cheeks, watched her eyes fill with tears. The paper was shaking in her hand. "Ethan, I can explain," she started, but I cut her off. I told her there was nothing to explain. 0% paternity was pretty self-explanatory. The silence that followed felt like forever. Lily started fussing, and Chloe just sat there crying, not even trying to comfort the baby. Finally, she spoke, and what came out was probably the most honest she'd been with me in over a year. She told me it happened once, just once. At the company Christmas party 14 months ago, she'd had too much to drink. Brendan had been flirting with her all night, and they ended up in his car in the parking garage. She said it was stupid and meaningless, and she regretted it immediately. She thought it didn't matter because we'd been trying for another baby anyway. And when she got pregnant a few weeks later, she convinced herself it was mine. She said she never told Brendan. Never confirmed anything with him. Just let him wonder. But when Lily was born with that bright red hair, she knew. She knew, and she said nothing. Just hoped I wouldn't notice or question it. "I was going to tell you eventually," she sobbed. "I swear I was. I just didn't know how." I asked her about Brendan's text message, the one about meeting Lily properly. She admitted he'd been asking questions, getting suspicious, wanting to meet his daughter. "He wants to be involved, Ethan," she said, her voice breaking. "He's been pushing me to tell you the truth so he can be part of her life." That made it even worse somehow, knowing this guy had been waiting in the wings the whole time. I told her to open the second envelope, the divorce papers. She looked at them like they were a death sentence, which I guess in a way they were. The death of our marriage, our family, everything we'd built. She begged me not to do this. Said we could work it out, go to counseling, start over. But I was done, completely emotionally checked out. I told her my lawyer would be in touch about custody arrangements for Noah. That's when she really panicked, asking what I meant by that. I explained calmly that I wanted primary custody of Noah, that I'd already found a 2-bedroom apartment closer to my work in Highlands Ranch, that I was prepared to fight for my son. She started screaming then, saying I couldn't take Noah away from her, that he needed his mother. I reminded her that she was the one who cheated, she was the one who lied, and no judge would look favorably on that. Noah looked up from his trucks, confused and scared. "Come here, buddy," I said, kneeling down. "Daddy has to go, but I'll see you real soon, okay?" He hugged me tight and whispered, "I miss you, Daddy," into my ear. That nearly broke me. I stood up, looked at Chloe one last time, and walked out. The next 4 months were brutal, probably the worst of my entire life. Lawyers, mediation sessions, court dates, the whole nightmare. Chloe fought me on everything at first, especially custody of Noah. But then something shifted around January. Maybe she realized she couldn't win. Or maybe she just felt guilty. Her lawyer reached out to mine with a proposal. I'd get primary custody of Noah. She'd have him every other weekend and one evening per week. I'd have no financial responsibility for Lily, and we'd split our assets 50-50. I agreed immediately. The divorce was finalized in late March, nearly 5 months after I'd walked out. I'd already moved into my new apartment in Highlands Ranch back in February, a decent 2-bedroom place with a small balcony. Noah got his own room. I let him pick out new bedding with dinosaurs on it, his favorite. The first few weeks were rough. He kept asking why Mommy wasn't there, why he couldn't see baby Lily every day. I tried to explain it in 3-year-old terms, told him that Mommy and Daddy loved him very much but couldn't live together anymore. He seemed to accept it eventually. Kids are resilient like that. Through mutual friends and occasional awkward pickups when Chloe came to get Noah, I pieced together what happened with her and Brandon. Turns out he actually wanted to step up, wanted to be a father to Lily. He'd been pressuring Chloe for months to leave me and move in with him, even before I found out the truth. After our divorce was finalized in March, Chloe didn't really have a choice. She couldn't afford the old apartment on her own with a newborn. Couldn't handle everything alone without support. So, she moved in with Brandon in April, into his place in Lohi. But anyone could see she wasn't happy. When she'd come to pick up Noah, she looked exhausted, defeated. Brandon would sometimes be in the car waiting, and the tension between them was visible, even from a distance. She'd traded one life for another and clearly regretted it. I heard from a former coworker of hers that Brandon was controlling, constantly questioning where she went, who she talked to. Guess he didn't trust her after how their relationship started. Imagine that. Chloe had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. Living with a man she didn't love, raising a baby that reminded her every day of her biggest mistake. Noah's visits with Chloe became less frequent over time. At first, it was every other weekend, like the agreement said, but then she'd cancel sometimes, say Lily was sick, or she had to work, or some other excuse. By summer, it was down to maybe once or twice a month. Noah would come back from her place quiet and withdrawn, and it would take him a day or two to get back to normal. I never badmouthed Chloe in front of him, never told him what really happened, but kids pick up on things. He started asking to stay home instead of going to Mommy's house. I couldn't force him to go if he didn't want to. So, the visits became even more sporadic. Part of me felt bad for Chloe, losing both her son and her old life. But then I'd remember the lies, the deception, the 6 weeks I spent in agony waiting for those test results. She'd made her choices, and these were the consequences. I started seeing a therapist in April, working through the betrayal and trust issues. It helped, talking to someone objective who didn't know either of us. My therapist said it would take time to heal, that I shouldn't rush into anything new until I'd processed everything. By June, I was starting to feel almost normal again, or at least a new version of normal. Noah was thriving, doing great in his new daycare near my apartment. I'd established a routine: work, pick up Noah, dinner, bath time, bedtime stories. Simple, predictable, honest, everything my marriage hadn't been. One Saturday in July, I was at the park with Noah when I met someone. Her name was Amelia. She was there with her nephew, and we started talking while the kids played on the swings. She was funny and easy to talk to, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than anger or sadness. We exchanged numbers, went for coffee the next week while Noah was at Chloe's. On our third date, she asked about my past, why a young single dad was on the dating scene. I gave her the short version, told her I'd recently gotten divorced, that it was complicated. That's a long story, I said. Maybe someday I'll tell you the whole thing. She smiled and said she'd wait until I was ready. As I drove home that night, I realized something important. I trusted my gut instinct about Lily, about Chloe, about everything. And even though it destroyed my marriage, it also saved me from living a lie. I had my son. I had my integrity. And slowly but surely, I was building a new life. Chloe was stuck in a loveless situation with a man she didn't even want, seeing her real son maybe once or twice a month, living with the consequences of one drunken mistake. That had to count for something. What would you have done in my situation?